Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and my 7-year-old will not leave me alone about going to McDonald's. This kid loves McDonald's, pancakes and sausage. That is his thing. And of course, when we're driving and he can't sit down to eat, then he likes a chicken biscuit from McDonald's. I just get cheese, eggs, and sausage because I'm doing low carb. And of course, their black coffee is great too. Okay, so I've got to do that. I told him if he'd let me record this video, then I would take him to McDonald's. But because sometimes he doesn't want to get out of my hair to let me get my things done. So here we go. Now, what the theme of today's video is, and the theme of today's video is going to be, we're seeing a narrative unfold from Ripple. We're seeing a narrative just in digital assets unfold. And I feel like we are witnessing chess pieces being moved into place. That's the way this feels to me. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. I wanted to start it off though by showing you, this is from Ian Northing. He says, as digital asset investor says, don't listen to what they say, do what they do. Follow the money, folks. And this is a tweet. We showed you this yesterday, but this is from Martin Valk. Did I miss something? People are getting excited about XRP. And they're showing these this is from the XRP rich list page that Diversify had created. They're showing a spike, and it's a spike well, I'll take that back. It's one of two things. I think Diversify said that it's either, these type of things are either a spike in holdings by these people with large amounts of XRP, or it's movement of funds. I think that's what was said. But it very well could be a spike in ownership, and I guess what they're thinking here is if people that have a lot of it are increasing their holdings, they must know something is what they're getting at. Now, yesterday afternoon, Ripple released this video on their channel of Chris Larson being interviewed by this guy from the Wall Street Journal. I could show you the whole video because the whole video is pretty good, but I'm going to show you some clips that I think give you the theme of what's going on here. First one is right here, but Chris Larson tweeted it out. He said, blockchain is poised to play an integral role in our next-gen global financial system. Unfortunately, the U.S. is currently ceding control in this area to China, partly by only providing regulatory clarity to two cryptos dominated by miners based in China. So here's the chess pieces that are being moved, folks. The chess pieces, and by the way, I wanted to show you the title of this. This is a new term right here. Ripple co-founder Chris Larson discusses the U.S.-China tech Cold War. Words mean things, folks. There are chess pieces being moved right now. And that title was put out there by Ripple themselves. Okay, so I think that's important. There was basically two overall themes to this. It's U.S. versus China. That China's way ahead of us, which I personally don't believe, but China's way ahead of us. That's the whole theme of this, and that it's not right that the U.S. in essence is letting China get ahead of us because they're only giving regulatory clarity on Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I'm going to lay all this out. Watch this. So here's the tweet where they talk about Chris Larson, and here you go.
And that was moved very strongly into building out a central bank digital currency, a renminbi, as well as controlling mining and basically having almost all their payments digital domestically. You know, frankly, and we can talk about it as well, we're way behind China when it comes to blockchain technology. So, you know, the companies need to just stay at it, you know, blocking and tackling, working within the system, but that vision of free money moving around essentially for free. That's what the internet basically is for information. But the U.S. government also needs to get a lot more involved in blockchain. We're slow to the game. China is so far ahead of us. You know, they just announced they're going to spend $1.4 trillion on technology, payments and blockchain, clearly part of that strategy. You could even argue the move to control Hong Kong more closely gives them an advantage in controlling two of the global financial centers. US only has one, right? So the US has got to change its view that goes from 17 and 18, which was all about these horrible ICOs, initial coin offerings, which were terrible, had to be shut down. They effectively shut them down. We won that war. Now we got to switch to, okay, how do we compete with China? How do we keep up? And, till now, frankly, US regulators have actually helped China by officially giving clarity to the two protocols effectively controlled by Chinese miners, Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's a mistake. We've got to also give clarity at least, and maybe even support, if this really becomes a tech cold war like it's looking like it will be, to technologies that are more favorable to US and its allies' stewardship of the next gen global financial system.
All right, so you can kind of see where this is going. Now he took it further. Watch this. This is a clip that I added on, that I clipped from it.
Bitcoin also has some other issues. It's a probabilistic settlement, right? Because miners can undo things theoretically, and it uses a lot of energy. But so I think also you're right. It's disappointing that Bitcoin kind of went into, hey, we're about store. Remember all that payment stuff we talked about? Well, we're about store value, right? Yeah, and that's kind of largely wealthy people, right? I mean, it's kind of cool and it's kind of digital gold, and I think that's a great use case for it. But it isn't the promise of billions of people coming online. You've got to work within the system to change the system. That's sort of the path that we've taken. Bitcoin also has some other issues. It's
look right here.
Stuff we talked about. Well, we're about store value, right? Yeah, and that's kind of largely wealthy people, right?
That was an interesting clip. That's largely wealthy people. He just confirmed for me what I've been saying for a while. These guys like Mike Novogratz, and that's who he's talking about. I'm not saying he's talking about Mike Novogratz specifically, but this guy is one of the guys. What he's saying right there, this is me talking, but it's very obvious to me at this point. What he's saying is all these people, these wealthy people that like Mike Novogratz, some, like in his case, who are also investors in Ripple. This guy, I'll never forget it when he was on CNBC when XRP was going up, and he was acting like he was confused by it and didn't understand how XRP would be going up and all this. He was comparing it to his Ripple equity. And I always thought that this guy's playing a game because he does understand it. I don't buy that for a minute. Well, I think Chris Larson is talking about guys like this. I think he's saying, these guys, some of these wealthy guys, they went heavy in Bitcoin early on, and they made a lot of money off of it, and they thought that hey, we made all this money, we can make even more money as the first wave of average Joes come into crypto. And I believe that that's what he's really getting at. Okay, but back to the narrative, okay, why are you giving Bitcoin? And I also think that Bitcoin and Ethereum were given regulatory clarity because some of these same very powerful people probably got that done. Remember, this is a war, folks. This proof of work versus XRP ledger and the things that make sense. It's a war. It's always been a war. But the guys with Ripple are going to win the war. Go ahead and write it down. All right. But back to the narrative. This is a narrative that Ripple is carrying right now, and you could watch the chess pieces move, watch the narrative go on. That's Chris Larson yesterday. Now this is David Schwartz from the other day when they put out the Ripple drop.
This was back in 2011 and 2012, and I think it was just starting to become noticeable that systems like Bitcoin, based on proof of work, would encounter sustainability and scalability challenges. That was definitely one of the factors that went into the design of the XRP ledger. It doesn't require the energy consumption and impose the scalability limitations of proof of work. Proof of work systems like Bitcoin and Ethereum have today encountered significant sustainability and scalability challenges. The XRP ledger's consensus-based design provides very fast transaction confirmations at very low speeds and doesn't have the kind of resource consumption that proof of work-based systems have.
Okay, and then you'll see that Brad Garlinghouse carrying the same torch.
On how do we use XRP as a really effective...
And by the way, this is from his Zoom call with his employees from a week or two ago.
Effective tool for payments. In this slide, we're comparing XRP's performance, scalability, and energy consumption to Bitcoin. And one of the things I think we will hear more about in 2020 is the sustainability. XRP really has been the greenest of digital assets. It's just shocking to me that we haven't heard more attention around the impact of the energy consumption of Bitcoin and Ether. There's some news earlier this year talking about one Bitcoin transaction is the equivalent of almost 1 month's energy consumption of a U.S. household. By comparison, the energy consumption used for XRP transactions is negligible. We clearly are seeing the lockdown.
Okay, and then he hits it again at about the 10 right in here. Watch this.
Strong note. It's certainly not lost upon me that, and I don't think, frankly, many people in the crypto community, that the majority of the Bitcoin mining power is in China. And particularly when we see the dynamics going on in the COVID world we're living in, those dynamics are only going to get more accentuated, I think, during the balance of 2020. And I think it's important for really the globe to understand that Bitcoin mining power today is controlled in China, and what are the implications of that as we look at many governments around the world taking a very strong stance about Huawei and the build out of 5G mobile networks. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I do think a priority for us throughout Q2 and really the balance of 2020 will be to continue to push to get more clarity, frankly, not just for XRP and all of the participants in the XRP ecosystem, but really for crypto more broadly. Moving to the next slide, look.
Okay, so you can clearly see how this is all unfolding. Now, folks, I say it all the time. I believe all the world is a stage, and I believe that a lot of things are going on stage right now. But before I get actually, I'll come back to this clip, but I want to finish my point. XRP Crypto Wolf had summarized this. Chris Larson said it's time for the U.S. to focus on competing with China in crypto. U.S. regulators helped China by giving clarity to two cryptocurrency controlled by Chinese miners, Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's a mistake. And then, so then we've got this same thing. Look, this is the Chamber of Digital Commerce. Regulatory clarity continues to be one of the biggest barriers to the adoption of cryptocurrencies. We're pleased to see Chamber members collaborating to provide thoughtful analysis on this issue. And they're tweeting out Chris Giancarlo's tweet, cryptocurrencies and U.S. securities laws beyond Bitcoin and Ether. So you've got this, and don't forget, he works for the law firm that represents Ripple. And then in the middle of that, we got Michael Arrington. This is what I showed you the other day. Michael Arrington, who is Brad Garlinghouse's best friend, according to him. Whatever else, Jay Clayton leaving the SEC is a win for crypto and sound money fans across the world. Hopefully he does less damage as a U.S. attorney. And then you've got, and this is what that's in reference to. Trump fired Berman to give U.S. attorney job to SEC Chairman Clayton, White House claims. So let me make sure if there's nothing else. And then we had Stuart Alderati yesterday tweet this. Great example of regulation maturing with the industry, providing regulatory clarity to market participants, creating a pre-approved list of virtual currencies that licensees can easily adopt, allows startups to start with a provisional license and more. And he's retweeting that. So I'm going to go back and show you one last clip from Chris Larson, where this is a pretty optimistic tweet right here. Listen to, not tweet, but video. Listen to this.
Financial institutions globally covering 45 countries that can reach 1 billion people. That's today. 24 of those institutions now are using the virtual currency as well as the blockchain plumbing. And that's fairly new in the last couple of years. So virtual currencies are today being used to lower the costs and give greater access to hundreds of millions of people, certainly. And before too long, it's going to be billions and billions of people. And that financial.
Before too long, it's going to be billions and billions of people. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that you can see the chess pieces moving if you look closely enough. Thanks for listening.